Have you ever found yourself mixing up words or grammar rules between two similar languages? Or you're trying to recall that one word, but the only one word that you have in your head is in language that you don't need now. In this video, I will share with you practical tips to avoid confusing relatable languages. Hi everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Monvie. So let's get started. Start learning a new language only when you have a reliable level in first one. Perhaps you wanna save your time and learn two languages simultaneously, but it's a bad strategy because you'll mix literally everything. For example, you're learning Spanish and Italian from zero at the same time. They are very similar, even in pronunciation. In time, you will just give up on learning these both languages because you will not be able to separate them. So start from one language, get the basics, at least A2 level, and then you can add one more language. When you start learning a new language, however, your knowledge are not so strong, you practice rarely. With adding a new language, you will simply replace old words with new ones. As a result, you will remember words only from your last language. When I started learning Turkish, I just forgot Spanish numbers because I didn't pay that much attention to them, as I was so excited by the new language that I was spending much more time on Turkish than on Spanish. And in Spanish, during that time, I didn't had such a great level. Maybe I had A2, but that was such an unconfident A2 level. And these two languages are not even from the same language group. So can you imagine what would happen with similar languages? Don't mix two languages during speaking. I know that feeling when you're trying to recall that one word, but you have a translation of it in all languages that you learn, except one that you need right now. Adding that one word in your speech will not ruin everything. However, if it will become a habit, your speech will be not clear, and other people will be puzzled as well because not all of them know all the languages that you know. Even when you practice speaking with yourself, try to avoid this situation and explain this word in other words. For instance, in my native Ukrainian language, we have such an interesting word, surjik. It actually means that a person is talking in both Ukrainian and in Russian at the same time during one conversation. So we name it like this as it's neither clear Ukrainian nor Russian. These two languages are very similar, like Spanish and Italian, maybe even more. That's why for some people it's easier to mix them. It's not always pleasant to listen to people who speak in Surjik. They can just use one language as they are not confident in any of them. For sure, it's not such a big deal for a lot of people, but personally for me, I don't like Surjik because I think that it's disrespectful to both languages. Focus on learning differences. There are plenty of similarities. That's why I advise you to focus on differences in these two languages. For example, false cognates, grammatical differences, false fronts, etc. This will show you another side that these languages are different, even though they are from the same language group. And overall, I advise you to pay attention to all these false fronts to avoid inconveniences. Because for instance, you're trying to recall one French word that you never learned, however, you have only Spanish word in your head now. So you just pronounce this Spanish word in French manner and you think that the job is done. Here it is. But then you check this word in vocabulary and you find out that actually this word has an absolutely different meaning. And now you're embarrassed that you said that. So it's really helpful to learn all these differences because you never know when they can let you down. Learn one language per day. It's important to differentiate your languages. Choose one day per one language, especially if these two languages are from the same language group. For instance, today you learn French, tomorrow Spanish, but I'm talking about learning sessions. If you, for example, listen to music, read books, watch series, it's okay even to mix them for one day because they are your daily connections. So it's obvious that you need to do that daily. But as for learning, you get new information, and by learning I mean improving your grammar, vocab. So as these two languages are similar, they can also have very similar grammar, vocab. As for me, when I started learning French, I stopped learning Spanish daily. As I already knew all the grammar, I could speak, I could understand everything, so I just didn't need that anymore. I could watch something or read, and it was absolutely enough for me. And thanks to this, I could pay my full attention to French. Even when I was learning English and Spanish, at the beginning, I could learn them both every day. But then I got that it's not very effective and it's too much new information per day. So recently, I stopped learning English and Spanish daily. Now I just use them in my life by watching series, reading, and speaking. Sometimes when I notice something new that I don't know, of course I learn it. But overall, I don't pay that much attention to learning these languages anymore. No matter whether you learn two similar languages or two completely different, in any case, it's difficult because you consume so much information. You learn all these words, all these grammar rules, and it's really complicated. Set different goals for both languages. If you set the same goal for all the languages that you learn, for example, to be able to communicate with others and understand them, well, it's not the best choice, to tell the truth. I recommend to have different goals for each of them. For instance, you need Portuguese for your work, so you learn an appropriate grammar and vocab, French for communication, and Spanish for watching series. For example, by this, you will not mix them because you will learn different areas of each language. So try to make learning process of each of them as different as possible. And with this, you will avoid confusing them. Choose a specific part of the day for each language. This one helps hugely because you associate one specific part of the day with a language. If you're used to learn French in the morning, you will not even recall that Italian because now the only thing that you're focused on is French. So it's just a matter of habit. For instance, in the morning, you can consume French content, read a book, watch an episode, talk to yourself a bit, and in the afternoon, you can do the same with Italian. But as you remember, you can learn only one language per day. These are just daily connections. That's why you can have endless amount of them per day. When you have only one language to learn, it's much easier because you don't need to find this balance between them. You can just spend all your time on one language. And obviously, you will learn this language faster. For sure, if you will use this opportunity. Because usually, when people notice that they have so much spare time, they are trying to fill it with something. And in most cases, it's not additional language learning hours. That's why I say that it will be beneficial. Firstly, you will master one language. It will help you with your next language. And overall, will make this whole process less painful. Choose your dominant language daily. By this, I mean that you need to have a dominant language and a second one each day. When you pay attention to them equally, it's easy to confuse them because you're somewhere in the middle. For instance, today you have more connections with Spanish, or during next 5 days, you will watch a Spanish series. Of course, it will not mean that you will not learn French and just forget it. You will just pay more attention to Spanish and it's really effective. Then in 5 days, you will pay more attention to French and vice versa. As for me, I can watch a Spanish series for a week. For sure, I maintain my language in English and I learn French daily, but a Spanish series creates this sense of environment, as I often listen to this language. It's not just one random video 10 minutes long. So as a result, during this period for me, it's much easier to communicate in Spanish and understand others. I think in it faster and I'm in Spanish mood, and I do this with all languages that I learn. I just set a time block for each language. As a conclusion, when you become fluent in both languages that you learn, you will be able to switch very fast between them. So it all comes with practice and consistency. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you soon in my next videos. Bye!